Hello and welcome back to the Football Talent Show. I'm joined as always by Jacek, and returning for a second episode is Alex Pilder. Alex, how are we doing?
Very good, and you? Happy to talk again about Romanian football, maybe in a more positive way this time.
Yeah, I think the last time you were here, there was a lot less snow in all of our countries. It's been a kind of an icy day for all of us, but excited to have a nice football chat today. And as Alex said, last show was a bit negative. We did scrutinize Romanian talent development a little bit, but this time around, I think we'll be more positive. We're going directly into some of the rising talents. We've selected 8 of them here, but I'm sure a few more names will pop up along the way. So Jacek, how excited are you to get into some individual players in this show today?
Yeah, I'm really excited, and this time I promise that we'll be much more positive. We'll even have the Romanian Wayne Rooney, so stay tuned, and it's gonna be another great episode.
Yeah, so as I said, we have 8 players here. They're all under the age of 21. They can, of course, be up to the age of 21, but we've gone very, very young for this show this time around. I think Alex and Jacek especially have really, really gone for some young up-and-comers. Alex, we'll start with your first player that you selected here. He's born in 2008, Albert Niculăesei. He's a 16-year-old playing for Elche in Spain in their U19 section. And he's primarily played in the junior ranks, but he has made his first team debut, did so in a 3-0 Copa del Rey victory in October, making him the youngest debutant in the club's history since 2007, and actually the youngest debutant ever from a foreign player. So Alex, talk to me about a very, very interesting player in this upcoming generation of Romanian talent.
Well, that's nice because I didn't even knew about those records. But yes, Albert is a left back that immediately caught my eye, I think last year, yeah. Obviously, I saw him with the national teams where he was selected. And during 2 or 3 games in a row, he was just all over the place. And he was very impressive, so I started following him closer. And now in 2004, I managed to see that he is also getting high rewards at Elche in Spain, and that he is probably considered as a top talent in general in Spain. As far as I know, he's even followed by bigger teams there. And yeah, like you said, he also managed to get his debut for the first team of Elche at just 16 years old, which is quite rare for, especially for a young Romanian player playing abroad, even if he's born there and he's raised there. But it's very interesting.
I imagine that he was born in Spain, so directly I think about Florin Andone, who wasn't born in Spain, but he was raised in Spain. So, but yeah, the position is different. Niculăesei is a left back, Andone was a striker, and this is where the similarities end. But yeah, surely an interesting prospect, and he's surely an important asset of the Romania under-17 squad.
I think he's probably one of the best top 3 players in that generation at the moment, regarding his performance with the national team, but also what he's doing in Spain now. And I think it's especially a position that Romania is lacking in general in the last years, but also in the next generation, if I think about it. He's like kind of Ratio, but on the left side, just running all over the place, overlapping, underlapping, but he also has more technical qualities, I think. Lately, he also scored a free kick with Romania. He's got some great crossing qualities, and really physically, he seems to be already kind of advanced for his age. Not a tall player, but just like solid on his feet with some kind of strong legs. So very, very interesting prospect.
And I think that Romania is not the only country that lack left backs. It's a general problem for so many countries, especially in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm an expert on this player by any means. I've seen him once very, very briefly against the Hungary U16 selection. And as Alex said, I don't see him as this pure athlete. I think there's very few Romanians also who are going to be these pure athletic types. They're not necessarily a nation that develops a lot of speedsters. They're more kind of these technical players, and that's how I see Albert as well. He's someone who, like Alex also said, brings a lot of technical capacity at fullback, Also his ability to overplay pressure with kind of longer range passes, be it into a striker, be it down the line for winger. He's quite good at that as well. And like I said, he's not necessarily a speedster who's going to just kick the ball down the line and kind of dynamically move beyond opponents. But he's still a pretty good ball carrier in that he has a very tight control. He's good at kind of shifting around defenders. So he is a pretty adventurous attacking fullback, even though it's not necessarily due to innate physical advantages.
Yes, as you said, he has that technical quality, maybe a bit higher than what we usually see in Romania. He's one of those defenders that is able to just not kick the ball when he's under pressure. He's able to find the solution with the midfielders or on his wing with the wingers, or even with the long pass on the striker. Now, actually, honestly, I think that physically he's got some good basics. As I said, he's not very tall, but at least in the Romanian context, he is more solid than many of the players.
Yeah, and I think we should also not forget he's only 16 years old, so there's still so much more time for development. It's not everybody is coming out as a 16-year-old like a Lamine Yamal, where they're ready made for senior football. Also from a physical capacity, there's nothing wrong with having a player who has still got a lot of physical maturing to do. And I think we'll see quite a few of these Romanian players actually that kind of the physical building blocks are going to be the last things to come in. There's quite a few on this list who have a similar issue. Jacek, let's move on to a player you wanted to bring to the table here, Mihai Toma. He's a 2007 born player, so 17 years old, 1 year older than our first player here. He plays for FCSB and also came for the FCSB Academy, predominantly a left winger, but also has spent some periods at center forward in the past. He actually made his FCSB debut as a 16-year-old last season. And I think now is almost the best time to record this podcast because it's really been his month in Romanian football. He's started and gone the full 90 minutes in the last 3 Superliga fixtures for FCSB. So has become a really, really key player in a crucial part of the season. So Jacek, tell me a little bit about this player.
So as I mentioned in the beginning that we will talk about the Romanian Wayne Rooney, although I do not really agree with that nickname, but I saw that it was circulating in social media. For me, Mihai Toma is much more of a midfielder, so he plays deeper. But yeah, that's true that his versatility is something really special. He can play almost on every position in midfield. Personally, I think of him as a roaming playmaker, so a great mix of box to box with some really nice playmaking abilities. So he was a standout player for Romania under 17s. You could see in the first moments that he was the leader and the best player of this team, an extremely mobile player. And for sure, he's one of the biggest talents that Romania had in recent years.
Well, yes, I totally agree with almost everything you said. I was following him since I think his first games at under 15 level with Romania, and yes, he was obviously above the average level of those teams. And yes, it's interesting now to see that he's already playing and getting some minutes in the first division. I think that he can end up as a very good midfielder more than a winger because he doesn't have the pace or the 1v1 quality to do that on the wings. But in the midfield, he has some great connection with his teammates. And as you said, big work rate. Actually, the Wayne Rooney comparison is also and maybe more about the physical aspect. I think that's what they said.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on that physical aspect because when you look him up on Transfermarkt, he's 1 meter 72, but you don't get the sense that you're really watching a tiny player. I mean, he is very tall in his stature. Even when he dribbles the ball, he's very upright. So he really uses the full length of his frame. He's not kind of one of these, like you say, tricky wingers with a low center of gravity who's going to kind of slide through you. He's more of a very, very direct ball carrier. It's also why I kind of see his future almost being as an inside forward, cutting in from the wings and immediately looking for shots on goal. Or like Jacek and Alex said, the more traditional Wayne Rooney comparison being kind of that second striker playing off a more towering number 9.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, back in the days, I was afraid that he might be that type of young player who can maybe have physical issues by not being enough athletic or maybe have some extra kilos, but it's just his natural aspect, and I think he's quite ready physically.
This is what I wrote in my report like over a year ago. That yeah, he's a player of a small stature, but very strong for his size. If you look at the player like Diego Luna, he's also very tiny, but my God, what a body he has! And yeah, I think for the physical aspects, I'm not that afraid for Mihai Toma, and we shouldn't forget that he gets minutes for FCSB, and it's also not the easiest thing because it's the biggest club in Romania. So it's a club like, let's say, Real Madrid, where they do not necessarily put a lot of faith in their youngsters, and him getting minutes and being able to show his quality is shows that he's a special talent.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it in our country deep dive last week, the difficulties of being a young talent under Gigi Becali. It can be a very, very difficult and tumultuous road. So the fact that he's been able to show it at FCSB just goes to show, again, what a fantastic talent he is. Let's go to the next one here. A player I selected, actually, Andrei Florea. He's a 19-year-old Romanian talent, so born in 2005. We keep going up the age groups. He's playing for Juventus in Italy. He's actually born in Italy, so born in Rivoli, Italy, but he's actually represented then Romania throughout his entire international career. He's a very, very valuable player for Juventus's under-20 side and also in their youth league campaigns. I think if you're going to watch one match of him, a fixture against Leipzig in the youth league was one of the standout performances in my mind. Played an exceptional role as a bit of a midfield playmaker. And that just goes to show kind of what a player is. Super complete technically. He has very, very superb abilities in tight spaces, be it carrying possession or just kind of nimbly moving beyond opponents or linking play. He's super versatile also in attacking positions. I think he can play as a wide playmaker even. He can play as a deep 8, conducting the play, or in a more advanced playmaker role as a 10. So it's interesting to see exactly where his career will bring him. But I think wherever it should go, you definitely need to put him in a high possession outfit. He's a player who needs the ball to his feet. He's diminutive, like I said, so he's not someone who's going to necessarily be making a lot of defensive tackles or physically imposing himself throughout an entire game. There's obviously some question marks about how he could adapt to senior football. Again, just a very, very small and technical player. But I think that if you put him in the right system, he can thrive. My player comparison is Fabian Rieder, actually, from Switzerland, playing at Stuttgart now. Another one of these very, very technical, diminutive, and highly versatile players. So in the right system, in maybe a Sebastian Hoeneß' Stuttgart, that could be a good role for him to make that step into senior football.
Yeah, again, you described him very well. He's had quite impressive evolution since he came back at Juventus, because he was actually on loan at Parma during a season where he performed also very well. And now it seems like he has the confidence of Juventus. But I hope we will also see him maybe in the second team in CDC soon, because that will be the natural step after. Great qualities, but also we have to see how he could adapt to the physical level of senior football. And also, I had some feedback from someone who worked with him. He's kind of instinctive, and sometimes he doesn't think about what he's doing. He's rushing very quickly on the ball or off the ball defensively. He likes to run a lot. He's very aggressive. That's great, but sometimes he just have to maybe control more his runs and his actions.
Yeah, I mentioned that game against RB Leipzig, and he had a fantastic goal in that game, a great all-round performance, and then capped it off with a 2 yellow card, red card also to get sent off. So, like Alex said, he is still a player who needs to adapt his game a bit more to senior football, who needs to kind of know when to put a foot in, when to be a bit more reserved. You do see that he still needs development, but so much good things also in his game.
He will be 20 actually in a few months. So, and he never tasted senior football, and that's a big problem. As you said, he needs to mature, and he won't mature by playing in the Campeonato Primavera. So I really hope that he will move to this Juventus next gen. And this is why this team was created. It was for players like Florea. So it's the right time to start playing at a higher level.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, there are 3 Romanians at Juventus, and they all have some kind of weird situation. Like Lorenzo Biliboc is a winger born in 2006, also great qualities, but he was benched a big part of the season. Now he's coming back and scoring in almost every game, so he's playing again. And we also have the goalkeeper 2007, Ricardo Radu, who also had some great games in the Primavera even last season. And now sometimes he plays in the youth league, but sometimes he has to let the other goalkeeper. I think it's a Polish goalkeeper. It's quite difficult to get that game time, and especially even more to go to the second team.
Yes, sadly, the pathway is not as clear as in Barcelona, for example. So that reserve team in Italy are brand new. Let's say they were created not so long ago. So there is still a lot of improvement to be done. And yeah, the pathway for this, even the best and Juve next gen players, is not really clear to the first team. Well, Kenan Yildiz is a good example, but yeah, only him. I think it's Riccardo Chiellini who's the boss of this project, and I know him, and I'm quite sure that it will get only better.
Definitely an interesting project to follow in Juventus that we'll highlight on the Football Town show very, very soon. But let's move on then to another player from Romania. We're going to go down the age groups again to the 2008s, Alexandru Bota. He's a 16-year-old talent playing for Universitatea Cluj. He's a central midfielder, and he actually made his first team debut as a 14-year-old in the 2022-23 season. So we're just talking about how in Italy you need to wait until you're 22, 23 to make your first team debut. And in Romania, he came on as a 14-year-old. He's the second youngest player to ever appear in the Superliga. This season, he's still the youngest player to feature out of anybody in the division. Played 71 minutes for Cluj this campaign. And interestingly, he's also the cousin of Olimpio Muretan. He's a winger for Pisa and also a Romanian international. So I guess football runs in the blood there. So Jacek, talk to me a little bit about Alexandru Bota.
First of all, I used to love Olimpio Muretan so much. That left foot could tie a tie. Sadly, his career isn't going as expected, but still a really nice advanced playmaker. As for Bota, he also has this spark of magic in him. He's a tiny attacking midfielder, very often plays on the wing, loves to use half spaces, a very good dribbler, good set piece taker, a true difference maker. The first time I saw him was probably 2 years ago. As you said, he made his debut at the age of 14, and he wasn't the only 14-year-old that made his debut in the Romanian top tier. I think Alexandru Stoian as well. I hope that we will have a minute to talk about him as well. Bota impressed me so much against Poland under 17s a few months ago. He came off the bench and he completely changed the game for Romanians. So a pure difference maker, in my opinion, and a player that I could compare to the likes of Mario Götze or Isco. So an extremely good ball carrier, extremely creative, and a pure joy to watch.
Yeah, so I actually went on Football Town Scout before this episode to look at who you compared him to, and I absolutely love the Mario Götze comparison. I think it's the perfect one, kind of the Borussia Dortmund coming of age Götze. It describes Alexandru Bota so well. But on the other hand, it also is why I'm quite fearful for what Bota's development will look like in modern football. Because if we're being honest, the Götze that came through in Dortmund in around 2010, 2011, there's not really much of a place for these types of players nowadays in football. These true advanced playmakers who are highly diminutive and need the ball at their feet at all times. I think with Bota, it's the same thing. He has so much technical quality, but he simply can't go 1v1 against opponents really in wide spaces or against center backs because he has no physical capacity whatsoever. We spoke about earlier in the show a guy like Mihai Toma who's diminutive but physically robust, and the difference is that with Bota, he's diminutive and absolutely not physically robust. He looks exactly his age. He looks like the 16-year-old. And even amongst all 16-year-olds, he's probably quite far below the standard development for physical robustness. So, yeah, Alex, I'll put it to you. Do you fear for Bota a little bit for senior football. He's obviously still so young, but I do question if he'll ever be able to really make it at a high level because of these limitations.
Well, yes, I think not just in about Romanian football, but just in general in football, this kind of profiles, like you said, are hard to integrate, especially because of, I think at the moment, he's still very young. He can still grow up a lot, even if that physical aspect is not the best one, especially at young age. But it will be interesting to see how he will adapt and how Ucluj will take care of him. Maybe a transfer soon outside could help him to make a bigger step and to reach his top potential. And as you said also about the systems, I mean, in Romania, if it stays like this, he will end up as a classic winger and he will maybe not reach the top potential that he could have. I don't know. I hope that in 5 years, maybe many Romanian teams will play a 3-4-2-1 with two attacking midfielders behind the striker who are free to go inside or on the wing, but it will be difficult.
I think last week we spoke about like there is this potential rating, and then there is this rating of probability of reaching the potential. And yeah, Bota for me he's an 8 out of 10, so a really good talent. But if I would need to put like the probability of reaching the potential, I wouldn't go more than 5.
And then we also mentioned Ucluj as one of our examples of a club doing good work with talent development, and the fact that they're also throwing Bota into these situations, that they're giving him chances, they're letting him grow in senior football. It again goes to show kind of that this is a really good place for talent development in Romania. Look at FCSB, for example, or Dinamo Bucharesti, or CFR Cluj. I imagine this player would not only not be playing senior football, but many of them would maybe not even want to have him in their academy in the first place, because they'd say, well, no way, this player will never reach senior football. We will give up now. So it's just a good testament to Ucluj. And if he works out in senior football, I think that'll be very positive for Romanian football as a whole and possibly change how some clubs look at their talent development.
Yeah, clearly you're right about that. And Ucluj, I think, as you mentioned it in the other podcast, they are doing some great job with the young players in the academy, and they have actually many players, many very young players, 2006, 7, 8, training with the first team on a regular basis. And yes, maybe a loan in second division soon could also help, even if it's not always the best context to develop, but just playing full-time games against men could also be a good point. That's what many clubs are doing now in Romania. So it will be interesting to see. And I think he will anyway be a real asset for the Romanian national youth teams in the next years. That's for sure.
Yes, from the technical point of view, he will be surely one of the best technical players in the second division in Romania, I could imagine. But yeah, that would be really challenging for him in terms of his physicality.
Let's move forward then a few more years again to a 2005 talent, Rareș Pop. He's a player for FC Rapid, so of course the club where Alex also works as a first-team scout. Was actually developed at UTE Arad, and then he was signed from Arad for 700,000 in the summer. He's primarily a right winger and played over 50 matches already in the Romanian top flight. Also gotten a pretty hefty goal contribution of 8 goals and 4 assists in that time frame. So definitely a youngster who has shown a lot of promise and is maybe preparing for a move abroad soon.
He's obviously one of the top prospects of this generation, and many people know him in Romania already because of his performances in this transfer to Rapid. I actually was also at UTA when he was still there, and he's not the most punchy winger. He's more the kind of winger who likes to go inside on his left foot and find a final pass, to find an angle for a shoot, because he has some great executions from outside the box or even inside the box. And he can also actually play as a central midfielder. That's how he plays sometimes at UTA, but ultimately he should end up as a classical winger, maybe like a Denisman, but in a different style. And why I also choose him is because he's a special guy and player in terms of education and mentality. Actually, he came to Bucharest also because he wanted to make some big studies, let's say, go at the university. And if I remember well, he's doing two courses at the same time. He was also at high school the best one in mathematics, in also science and all those stuff. I think it also helps him to be very mature at his age. I can see that the way he talks in interviews, or the way he acts with the teammates in the team, his attitude. He's a very smart guy and very cold-blooded. I think pressure in general and adaptation in maybe another country, when hopefully he will go higher, won't be an issue like it is for many Romanian players lately.
Yeah, Alex, I think that extra info you mentioned there, I didn't know anything about that, but it's so interesting because the first word I associate with Rareș Pop as a footballer is clever. Like his movement is clever, his decision making is clever. He's, like you said, he's not a winger who's gonna just explode past you. He doesn't have this necessary dynamic pace, but he's a real wide playmaker who loves to drift in, loves to combine with teammates. Also, his movement in the penalty area. I mean, the goals he scores, they're not great shots necessarily. We're going to get to a player later on in this episode who has kind of those incredible finishes, but his goals are more just being in the right spot in the box, getting a deflection, putting it away, or finding his way away from a marker to have that simple tap and finish where you say, okay, wow, it's luck. But then you see it again and again and again and again, and then you start to realize, no, this is a pattern. This is a player who is just getting into the right spaces over and over again. So I'm also totally on your side. I think this is definitely a player who has the mentality and has the technical, versatile quality to make a career outside of Romania. And I think he can be a real role model for a lot of other Romanian players in the future that they can look up to and say, okay, this is kind of the model of player that I should become if I want to make that move to Western Europe. So I really hope this one works out.
Yes, Rareș Pop is a definition of a flamboyant winger. He's not at all a speedster. This is another thing that I am jealous of for Romanian football, that in Poland, we only have these speedsters on the wing, explosive ones, and Romania is able to produce so many these creative and intelligent wingers. Personally, I compared Rareș Pop to Victor Tsigankov, and I think it's not a bad comparison. And yeah, once again, we need to give flowers to Uta Arat for their fantastic work with youth. And as we mentioned, it's not only Rareș Pop, it's also Catalin Vulturar and many other players coming from that youth system.
Okay, and sticking with the winger theme, we've really gone for quite a few wingers here. I guess we're all kind of obsessed with goals and assists like any other football fan. I've also gone for a winger, Alexandru Musi. He's actually, you could say, competing maybe for minutes with Mihai Toma, Jacek's pick earlier on. Both, of course, playing at FCSB. Musi is a bit older. Like I said, born in 2004, so he's 20 years old. He was born in Bucharest, but also has Spanish heritage and played for Valencia as a teenager. And he's played a large role when he was on loan at Petrolul last season. And he's had solid minutes this campaign, but not necessarily a starting figure throughout. For me, he's not a complete player. There's still quite a few substantial gaps in his game. He still has a lot to improve in terms of his physicality. He goes to ground extremely easily. It's almost laughable sometimes how minimal contact you need to bring him to the ground. He's a player also very susceptible to getting a yellow card for simulation. There's quite a few times where he'll take no contact and try and make a meal out of it. So possibly his Spanish side of his genes. Also quite immature with his body language at times. You can sometimes see that he isn't necessarily the best teammate in all occasions, so he'll often kind of throw up his hands after an error or demand the ball in all phases. But there's one aspect of his game that really stands out to me, and that's his tight space dribbling and ball manipulations in tight dimensions. He's so skillful in these tight spaces. He has so much trickery and craft. He's exceptional at kind of beating an opponent with no dynamism whatsoever and getting around them. It's a quality that's very hard to teach, and which he has in abundance. He reminds me a lot in these moments of a guy like Brian Gruda at Brighton, that ability to just ghost past opponents in the most minimal of spaces. So like I said, he still has a lot of work to do. And for a 20-year-old, I think his game is not really developed yet at the highest level. But you see moments and moments often of the what immense quality he has in 1v1 abilities. I watched a match of him against Portugal U19, I think, where he was the captain of Romania. A really, really excellent performance from him there. So, yeah, a player who still needs to develop a lot for senior football. But if he can make that step, I think he is a very, very unique talent.
Yes, Musi is definitely one of those players from FCSB who also made it to the first team now after that loan to Petrolul. Like you said, he still has to work on some aspects, physically, mentally, even if actually I had some positive feedbacks about him. Mentally, I was surprised, but he's actually kind of a leader and has some respect. Maybe that's why you got the feeling that maybe with the under-20s he has those attitudes, but I think he knows maybe he's the star player of that team and he has some pressure on him. But what I would see on the positive side is that he seems to manage pretty well the pressure in general when he comes on for FCSB with the national team, or even when he was at Petrolul at a younger age. And it will be interesting. I hope he will also play a bit more for FCSB. What is interesting with him is that, yeah, we can see him more often on the left wing, going inside on his right foot, playing in those tight spaces to create something. But he was actually also very good on the right wing at Petrolul, and also sometimes playing more centrally as a second striker or even a striker, which I think is also thanks to the fact that he's quite smart in game, in his off the ball movement, his ability to get in the free space. So a very, very interesting player.
Yeah, I think two interesting points just to briefly touch on that you mentioned there. The first, I do like that you mentioned the wings that he's deployed on. I've seen him play on the right. I've seen him play on the left for FCSB. And as you mentioned, while he may have had really, really good moments for Petrolul on the right, I do really see his long-term future on the left. I want to see him drifted into those tight pockets where he can combine with teammates, where he can be kind of a true wide playmaker drifting into central zones. That's where I see him best. And also, it is good to hear your feedback about the mentality because, like you say, the one thing I can never put against him is the fact that he doesn't take initiative and doesn't take ownership when he's on the pitch. You definitely always see that he wants to impact the game. He doesn't hide. He doesn't shirk away from pressure. So that's a factor that is really, really impressive. And when he's playing for the U19s of Romania, he is the captain for a reason because he is the guy who takes responsibility of set pieces, who, when he's on the ball, always looks for the goal. So he's a true leader in that sense. But then also more generally, even when he's playing first team football in, like we mentioned, a very difficult environment at FCSB, he knows that every minute counts and he's trying to impact the game as best as possible.
Yes, definitely one of the most interesting prospects in the Superliga. His footwork and his bravery are the things that set him apart. I do not consider him as a top talent of Romanian football, but I still think he can play higher than the Romanian league. Maybe in the Netherlands or Belgium. I think it would be an interesting move for him. But that's true what Adam said, that he looks kind of immature, and like the consistency and decision making will be the key for his development. And yeah, I will always say it about Winger, he should play on the left. So he's right-footed, he should play on the left. And I have a question for you, Alex. Imagine that you are a scout of let's say a German club, or maybe second Bundesliga club, and they tell you, okay, we can sign Tavi Popescu or Alexandru Musi. What do you tell them? Who should they sign?
That's not the most easy question here, considering these two players, especially at the moment, with Popescu being one of those wonder kids of Romania in the last years, that many people hope that he will be the big name for Romania, with his obviously amazing technical quality and executions. So yeah, probably one of the most talented players in the Superliga, even at the moment in the last years. I think many people know him even outside of Romania. But now at the moment, if I had to choose between him and Musi, considering their age and what they have done in Romania and what we know about them as players and as a character and all those aspects, I think I will still go maybe for Musi, who has maybe slightly higher potential, even if he's not the most talented of the two.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Tavi Popescu is dangerously heading into a Florian Command way. He's already 22, and yeah, his ball striking is something different. Like really, all his goals are bangers. But yeah, he's already 22, and it's time to leave for him, in my opinion. But yeah, okay.
I mean, what we can hope is maybe Tavi Popescu doing a Florinel Coman and being at his ultimate prime at 24, 25, and maybe at that moment he could get a transfer outside. But even physically, I feel that Musi has some potential in his legs, in his physical structure. I feel that he has more potential than Tavi, who is kind of also blocked on this aspect. I feel.
And I respect your opinion, and of course, like Popescu didn't really make any progress in recent years, and he still lives with the hype of all these bangers circulating around social media. So yeah, I'm surprised, but yeah, it's a really interesting choice.
Yeah, and Yasif, you mentioned a player who stores bangers there, and I think that brings us to our next player, Iustin Doicaru. He's a 17-year-old playing for Faro Constante. He's primarily a right winger. He made his top flight debut as a 16-year-old, and this season he's featured in 12 of 21 matches. Many of them, or actually all of them, coming from the bench. But what I can say about him is go to Alex's YouTube channel and watch the highlight tape because he has some incredible curling long post goals. They're absolutely brilliant, just struck with so much finesse into the top corner. I think you could put 4 or 5 goalkeepers into the goal and you still wouldn't be able to save some of them. So, a really, really brilliant player in moments. And interestingly, it's also our first player from Faro Constante to appear on this list. So, Jacek, talk me through Doicaru.
Doicaru is the main reason why I came here today. I absolutely love the player since the first moment that I watched him. And I think I sent a message to Alex, it was probably 2 years ago, and said, wow, what a prospect. He is the Romanian Robin van Persie, extremely versatile, so elegant on the ball, so technical, fantastic ball striking, incredible versatility. He can play as a lone striker, as a second striker, as an inside forward on the right. So an unbelievable prospect, and I'm quite sure that when Haji goes and see the games of Doicaru, he's so proud of himself. That's why he created this project for players like Iustin Doicaru.
Yes, definitely. Doicaru is from that 2007 generation with a lot of interesting and talented players. Obviously, from Farul, there's also Alexandru Stoian. But Doicaru is indeed impressive. First of all, because of that technical quality that he has, those incredible shoots from quite long range. Will it be free kicks or just going inside on his left foot from the right side? He's quite impressive, and I also like his ability when he plays on the wing to fake that inside left foot dribble and to come back on his right foot and to cross it or even shoot. Uh, he has often managed to create dangerous situation by that way. Um, the first time I saw him, I think he was playing as a striker, and I was thinking in which position this guy will end because he's quite a beast for Romanian football. He's strong, tall, quite good pace and explosivity. So I was wondering, will he end up as a winger, as a striker? I think we still cannot say it, even if obviously Hadji will use him more as a winger coming on in the Superliga at such a young age. And I will be curious to just see how he can adapt to the senior level and if he is mentally ready to make the step higher and to stay focused on his development.
Yeah, I mean, he is only 17 years old, but I am a bit surprised that he hasn't gotten more opportunities, at least one or two starts this season, because like Alex said and like Jacek said, he just brings so much with him. I'm personally, and I know Jacek is as well, such a big fan of these tall wingers. He's 1 meter 80. It's a bit like the Kulusevski, obviously a different player than Kulusevski, but a tall winger model. When I first saw him, I really thought of Maximilian Bayer. That was the player that I kind of compared to him. And that reminds me a lot of what Alex is saying there, the inability to really know exactly what position he'll play in the future. It's the same thing that Maximilian Bayer had for so long. Is he a striker? Is he a shadow striker? Is he an inside forward? These players can play all these different roles competently, and that's exactly what I see with Doicaru as well. So I think he has a big future. I think he'll make that move abroad. And yes, I'm actually going to go against you. You said that Mihai Toma was going to potentially have the bigger career. I'm going to go with Doicaru as making it further.
The bet is accepted. And as for Doicaru, I think I also talked with Alex back then, and yeah, asking him where do you see him, what's his best position. So it was between striker and winger. So I put his best role as a second striker. So I went the easy way there, and I remember after I have done these reports, someone from Romania wrote me a message and said, "Why on earth did you pick Doicaru over Stoian? Stoian had much more hype back then." And I can proudly say that I checked Transfermarkt today and I saw that Doicaru had more minutes than Stoian this season, and they are of the same age, same generation. And what do you think about Stoian, Alex? I think it's really important to talk about him as well, as he was widely regarded as the biggest Romanian under 17 talent for a long time.
So yes, indeed, as I mentioned, Stoian is also one of that big talents from Hagi who got the spotlight on him very quickly. I think, if I'm not wrong, he's the second youngest debutant in the Superliga. He's also that kind of player who is still playing between different positions. We could saw him playing as a winger, then even as a striker, as a central midfielder. I think and I hope that he will end up as a central midfielder because of his physical qualities, his mental qualities. Like Doicaru, he's a tall guy, quite advanced physically. So yes, definitely those two players from Hagi are the ones to follow in the next years.
I remember seeing Stoyan only exclusively on the wing, and he didn't really impress me a lot. He didn't have the spark of magic that Doikaru had for sure when I watched him. But yeah, definitely one of the best talents in Romania. And I have my three favorite players from this Farul Academy. So Stoyan, Doikaru, and Abramescu.
Yeah, like we said, we've gone very, very young for this Romanian episode, so it'll be interesting just in 2 or 3 years to almost look back and see where we've hit with these players, who's made it out of Romania, who's not even playing football anymore, so it can go really a multitude of directions for some of these guys. Our final player for the day is Ioan Vermesan. He's an 18-year-old talent at Hellas Verona, so he's part of a 2006 age group. He actually played for a few different Romanian academies before making the move to Italy in 2023. He's also a center forward, and he has a pretty strong output at the youth levels in Italy. 7 goals and 7 assists across 18 appearances in the Primavera and Coppa Primavera. And he had one pretty crazy afternoon in the Coppa third round, actually, in October. They played against LR Vicenza. They won 4-2, and he alone contributed 4 assists. So it goes to show that he's more than just a goal scorer. He can do a lot of different things in this game. So, Alex, talk to me about him. He's the only player who I unfortunately have not seen at all. There was no footage anywhere to be seen of him. All I could find was one short interview in Italian, which I couldn't garner any information from. So, Alex, I'll put this one over to you to give the first insights.
Yeah, so it's nice to end with him because I think he's definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite player. He immediately catch my eye because he already had some great stats at youth level without me seeing him. I think he has tens of goals at every category. Maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but he has a lot of goals for Romania. And then I was thinking, okay, this guy scores a lot. maybe he just does that. He's a classical striker, maybe with a physical advantage, and he just managed to score a lot against kids. And then I watched his first games and kept watching him during the years, and I just found out a striker that can do a lot more than scoring, that puts a lot of effort for the team, has great abilities to link up with the team, to sacrifice, not that selfish, with some obviously great finishing skills, even if he can also improve that, but scoring that many goals, it doesn't come from nowhere. And technically he's just okay, I would say. Nothing fancy, but just enough for a striker like him. Physically, he's very solid. I think he has a very nice structure, in my opinion, for a striker. Around 1 meter 85, 86, quite mobile. Also for that height, with a low center of gravity. So he looks nice on the ball, not very clumsy. And yes, the best aspect about him, I think, is his mentality, uh, fighting mentality, very positive and good mentality, a smart kid, a smart guy. I was also able to talk with him many times about his games, about his football, and he understands very well football, in my opinion. He's the kind of guy, the player who in the dressing room at halftime, he will take the board and explain some things to his teammates, how he plays, how he makes the runs, how they can make the runs to link up each other. So yeah, he has a top mentality and a nice story. As you said, did he was at Ripența Timișoara, and he went to Uta Arad at some point, but he had to come back because his father sadly was passed away at the time, and he went back to Timișoara with his mother. After a few years, he finally made a step in Italy at Hellas Verona, where he immediately had some great moments and adapted very well. Maybe also helped by the fact that he's with his friend Luca Simeonaș, who is from the same team, same generation, and they play together. And yeah, I'm very happy to see that he is playing well, scoring, assisting. I think he already trained last year with the first team at some point. So I hope that he will make it quickly to the first team and that he will be the next big number 9 of Romania.
Yes, Alex. Personally, I compared him to Robert Lewandowski in my talent of the day, and I think it's a decent comparison, especially what you said. Nothing fancy, but an intelligent guy, decent technically, great finisher. So I think it's all Lewandowski, and physically they are almost the same. So yeah, the biggest problem would be the transition to senior football, and it's not going to be easy in Verona. They are in a relegation battle, so not really in a position to give youngsters minutes. And it's not a really Italian thing to give youth a chance, so it's going to be complicated. Do you think that he should stay in Italy, or maybe a comeback to a club like Rapid would be a good idea for him?
Obviously, if we had the chance one day to sign him, it will be great. But maybe for him, I hope that he will get maybe an opportunity in Serie B. If he can play for Hellas Verona, obviously, if they stay in Serie A, I hope that he will not have the same path as Burnete recently, who was blocked at Lecce and couldn't. I don't know why he couldn't leave, or now he's injured, so it's another problem. I hope that the beginning of his pro career will be like Puskás, maybe, who was loaned in Serie B and made a name for himself there before getting a transfer, because he was able to play simply. And yeah, maybe they have some similarities, but I hope he will end up a bit better than Puskás.
Yeah, and he will have to make an important decision at the end of the season. I think it's the last year of him playing in the Primavera. Probably, as you said, a loan move to Serie B would be ideal, even though all these loans they do not work perfectly all the time, and I'm kind of against them because so many players went to Serie B and completely disappeared, and there are so many stories about coaches not even knowing the players that are coming to the training. For me, the loan system in Italy is kind of broken. But yeah, all the best to Vermesan, and surely potential number 9 for Romania for many years to come.
Well, I don't want to get too speculative on this pod but I mentioned immediately when I introduced Vermesan that he scored that hat-trick of assists against LR Vicenza. And Vicenza are currently second in Serie C. So the Serie C is broken up into quite a different regions, has a very odd promotion system. But should Vicenza get promoted to the Serie B, I think they would maybe know what center forward has the quality to contribute and score a lot of goals. So maybe we hope that Vicenza gets promoted to give Vermesan that ideal loan destination. And with that, I think we can round up this Romanian talent episode. Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for dedicating so much of your time to speak about Romanian football, not just in this episode today, but also the one we released last week. You are, of course, working as a first-team scout for Rapid, but you are constantly producing a lot of content, be it on YouTube, be it for Insta and Twitter, also for all of us to learn so much about Romanian football. So feel free to just plug those different accounts now to let people know exactly where they can find you.
Yes, guys, thank you very much again. Thank you for welcoming me. It was great to talk with you about all these players and Romanian football in general. I hope that it was not too boring and that my English is not too bad, but I did my best. And yes, as I said in the other podcast, if people want to reach me out on Twitter or Instagram, Alex Scout Row, without any problem, it will be a pleasure.